Hello, my dear friends. Welcome, all my dear students, in today's video class. Myself, Professor Jayashri Teli, welcomes all of you once again. In last video, we completed introduction to comedy. Today we should learn history of comedy in short. In introduction we studied meaning of comedy, origin of the word comedy, birth of comedy, and also we studied the situation of the birth of comedy, that is sex, love and fun, where the comedy took place birth. Let's turn towards our next topic, that is history of comedy. It is also history of comedy also very important for our study. Just wait for a minute. Here I am sharing my PPT, which just history of comedy. Our first slide shows the main points regarding the history of comedy. Aristophanes was the first comic playwright. He started writing near about 425 BCE, before Christ. Means Aristophanes started his writing near about 425 before Christ. He was the first comic playwright. He was comic playwright and also satirical author of the ancient Greek theatre. At a time, he was a comic playwright and a satirical author of ancient Greek theatre. He wrote near about 40 comedies, and out of 40 comedies, only 11 comedies were survived today. He developed his comedies from earlier satire plays, means the birthplace of comedies, satire plays. Comedies took birth from satire plays. These satire plays were highly of sense. These satire plays were highly of sense. Of sense means here asleel or bivast, which is related with sex shortly. Before Aristophanes, Euripides was a satire writer or an author. But these types of plays were not existed as a form of literature today. In short, comedy is originated in bawdy and ribald songs, recitings, affroes of folly processions and fertility festivals or the gatherings. Here, bawdy, it means also a slave, it means it related with sex. Ribald, or it is means not true, or it is also sometimes refer sex. So body and rebulge. These are songs. There's songs like this. These are the songs of recitation afros of folic procession. Look here. Once again, these things means body and ribald songs in folic processions. Folic, yes, polus means the symbol of male sex, and folic processions, you know the processions. Processions means just like Miravnuk or the program celebrations like that. And the celebrations of the male sex or the image of male sex and the dance and singing around the male sex, it is what here wanted to say, and it is the fertility festivals. Means fertility means regeneration. In reality, the phallus or the male symbol of male sex shows us the regeneration of humanity. And here, this folic procession or the fertility festivals shows, or the songs in these shows are the reason for birth of comedy, or here comedy take birth. Around 335 BC, Aristotle, in his Poetics is the well-known book written by Aristotle, where we find the guidelines related with literature or the philosophy or all other things. And in this Poetics, he stated that, or he noted that comedy is originated in folic processions. Means he is also agree that comedy originated in folic processions. And but he, this folic procession, according to Aristotle, this is a ugly rituals. Means he is not happy, or it is not so good ritual. But uh, contemporary peoples were taking entertain, or they taking joy, or they are entertaining themselves with help of like these folic processions. According to him, origin of comedy is obscure, aspust, unclear. Origin of comedy is obscure because comedy was treated seriously from its beginning. According to him, comedy was treated very seriously from the beginning. So he says that, Aristotle here says that comedy was generally a positive thing for society because it reduces stress, it creates entertainments, or it helps us to make ourselves happy. That's why Aristotle says that comedy was generally a positive thing for society. Since it brings happiness in ideal states, just what I said, that it reduces stress, it makes relax, it makes fresh human beings, and that's why it brings happiness in ideal state or its ideal position. Happiness is the final goal in any activity. Means in comedy, happiness is the final goal. That's why it is positive. Aristotle also says that, or also he noted that comedy did not need involvement of sexual humor or fun. From the beginning of our topic, I am tracing over the Aristotle's views that comedy did not need of sexual humor or fun. On the other hand, he says that comedy is a fortunate arise of a sympathetic character. He says that there is no need of sexual humor, but he says that comedy is a fortunate humor. Comedy is a fortunate arise of a sympathetic character. Here, Aristotle divides comedy in three types or in three parts. In last time, we see that in old age or in medieval period, comedy is divided into two parts, classical comedy and romantic comedy. Rules and regulations followed by classical comedy, and rules and regulations are not followed or were not followed in romantic comedies, what we studied in last period. But in in poetics, Aristotle noted that, or he divided comedy in three types or in three categories or in three genres. Especially the word type is not better, but the genre or the category, subgenre is the correct or appropriate word here. That is farce, satire and romantic comedy. Farce, satire and romantic comedy. These are the three subcategories or the subgenres of the comedy divided by Aristotle. But on the other hand, Plato noted that comedy is a way to self-destruction. Plato noted in his Republic that comedy is a way to self-destruction. How it becomes self-destruction? According to him, he thought that, or his views, this his views. Plato's views are very different from Aristotle's views. For Aristotle, that is the happy ending, or to relax the human life or to reduce the stress, that is comedy. But according to Plato, he noted in his Republic that comedy is a way to self-destruction. According to him here means Plato, comedy produces emotions which overrides rational self-control and learning. Plato says that comedy produces an emotion that overrides rational self-control and learning, means it overrides here. And in his Republic, he also advised that guardians of the state should avoid laughter. Means guardians means who? The palak of the state, means the statesmen should remain away from the laughter, means they should be serious, they should remain away from the laughter. Laughter is not a good thing for the guardians of the state. They should avoid the laughter, and that's why Plato says that comedy should be tightly controlled if some want to achieve ideal state. He says that if someone wanted to achieve ideal position in society, then he should control comedy, he should control his laugh, or he should avoid the laughter. But that's what he says. Then let's turn towards Aristotle. Aristotle defined in his Poetics comedy as one of the original of four genres of literatures. Four genres of literatures. What are these genres? They are tragedy, comedy, epic, poetry and lyric poetry. These are the four genres of literatures, and in these four genres, comedy is one of these four genres. I think all of you studied, or now also you are studying criticism. In the first chapter of criticism, or in first unit, you maybe learn literature. What is meant by literature? According to Aristotle, literature means mimesis or imitation of life. Right? Literature means imitation of life or mimesis. And when we look towards comedy through the literary perspective, we see that comedy is the third form of literature, because it is not 100% imitation of life. Comedy is not the 100% of imitation of life, because the real life is different from the comedies. That's why it is the third form of literature. Tragedy is the truest mimesis of the life, or the truest imitation of life. That's why it is related with first form of literature. Then epic poetry follows tragedy. It is the second form of literature, and comedy is the third form. Lyric poetry is the fourth form of literature. Okay. And the genre of comedy is defined by a certain pattern here. According to the Aristotle's definition, or according to Aristotle, comedy begins with low or base characters. Means, look here, comedy begins with low or base characters, which these characters seeking insignificant aims. The characters in comedy seeking insignificant aims means the aims, the goal of the characters are insignificant, not so important. That's why end with some accomplishment of the aims, and the characters who were seeking aims, these characters or all these aims are not fulfilled. Some accomplishments of the aims which either lightens the initial baseness or reveals the insignificance of aims. Means here the aims of the character, it lightens. The aims are not so serious, they are light aims. It is the initial baseness or reveals the insignificance of the aims. Okay, means in today's video we learn about the views of Plato and Aristotle. Who is the first writer? We learned that first comic writer or is the Aristophanes, who wrote comic playwright. He is known as a comic playwright and also satire writer or the author of satire, who wrote near about 40 comedies, but 11 comedies were survived. Euripides was the first playwright, satire writer, but his satires are not so survived, and it is also not mentioned in the form of genre or the form or the genre of literature also. So in such Aristotle wrote his views in Poetics in 335 BC, and Plato noted his views in Republic. Aristotle speaks about comedy. He says that there is no need of sexual fun or other things, but on the other hand, Plato says that comedy is the way to self-destruction. That's why everyone should control themselves, self-control on, and very important, according to Plato, the person who want to become a guardian or the if guardians of the state should avoid the laughter, because it is the way of destruction. Aristotle defined comedy as one of the four genres of literature. They are tragedy, comedy, epic poetry and lyric poetry. And also one last point is that comedy begins with low or base characters. There who were seeking insignificant aims, means not so important, the aims are not so important, and end of the comedy is with accomplishments of the some of the aims. It lightens the situation, business, or the importance of aim. Okay, now we stop here. I think all of you understand it. I again repeat that you should once, twice, thrice, four time. If it how it necessary, then only you should learn it. Now I am stopping here. Thank you very much.